Two effing grifters. So
I just wanted to thank all of you for welcoming me into the Invictus family.
That Invictus funds were directed towards private jets, 5-star hotels, and transportation for Harry and Meghan.
What happens when an event created to honor wounded veterans ends up carrying a staggering $63 million price tag? That's the question putting the Sussexes and the Invictus Games under an intense spotlight. And for many critics, the eye-popping cost is only the beginning of a much bigger controversy.
Somehow this balloons from an event that cost $1 million the first year they did it to $63 million now. Harry has ballooned the budget from $1 million. It cost $1 million to do it with 400 people. It's now $63 million with an extra 140 people. What the
The 2025 Invictus Games in Vancouver reportedly cost around $63 million while involving 543 veterans. That works out to roughly $118,000 per participant, a number that immediately got people talking and raised serious questions about where all that money was going. So where the Sussexes put all that money?
but people are a little upset about where the money is going because right now there's been a 63% drop in actual grants to wounded warriors, despite the fact that they have more money in their bank than ever from carryover. And in Vancouver,
Critics quickly started comparing Invictus to other events with similar goals. The American Warrior Games reportedly operate on about $2 million a year, while a comparable competition in Germany has been reported to run on a much smaller budget, despite hosting nearly half as many participants.
Comparison, the US Warrior Games, a similar competition for wounded American service members, runs on roughly $2 million a year. Germany's Invictus-style competition costs about $200,000 and involves half as many participants. The public's taxes footed a portion of the bill.
It was absolutely stunning. As more people dug into the numbers, the financial debate only grew louder. Reports claimed that direct charitable support to veterans dropped by roughly 63% during one period, even as overall revenue rose. That revelation triggered fresh criticism and fueled anger. Growing concerns among those who believed veterans should remain the top priority. Those comparisons sparked a wave of heavy criticism, raising one persistent question. Why was Invictus so much more expensive?
Prince Harry seemed to have left Scott Snow behind. Competed in 2023 Invictus in Dusseldorf. He was injured. He was in a wheelchair that did not have restraint straps. So basically defective hardware. It drives me crazy. I mean, Prince Harry founded these games. He's the public face of Invictus. And has anyone from his office bothered to reach out to you? Has anyone bothered to, from Invictus, after that initial meeting, bothered to reach out and say, hey, let's help out here?
I never heard from anybody, to be honest with you.
Doubts intensified when attention turned to a new six-figure executive job, growing reserves worth millions of dollars, and executive pay packets that critics argued were incredibly high for an organization this size. $200,000 to veterans out of $63 million. Critics questioned if too much funding was swallowed up by administration, while barely anything reached the wounded service members the games were built for. The firestorm soon spread past Prince Harry alone, shifting directly onto the Sussexes as a couple.
Oh, the Invictus Games, it's great. It does all this. And then, you start looking into it and you're like, hey, what the heck is going on here? Those 535 competitors had to pay their own way. They had to pay their own housing for the games. They had to pay for their own equipment. And Harry and Meghan got a really nice vacation out of it with lots of adorational speeches and clapping and crowds gathered for them.
Reports showed that roughly $15 million came from Canadian taxpayers, and another $15 million from British Columbia. Suddenly, everyday citizens found themselves footing the bill, and their demands for answers grew much louder. People demanded to know where their tax money went.
They brought in, it was around $62 million. 50% of that was from the government of Canada and BC, meaning that was taxpayers. And when you're dealing with taxpayer monies, people are kind of like, hey, why are we not buying?
As demands for openness intensified, critics zeroed in on leaked documents filled with blacked-out numbers and hidden contract clauses. This missing information only fueled public suspicion. leaving many to demand a clearer picture of where the money went, especially since $4 million in corporate sponsorships came from completely anonymous corporate donors.
Said that the $4 million in sponsorships, that the sponsors, the corporate donors, aren't named. So I'm wondering, because people will rag on the corporate sponsors? Do they have people giving them money who say, don't use my name? Is that possible?
One specific document triggered even more outrage, appearing to suggest the head of the games was taking home double paychecks from separate sources. Crucially, no concrete proof has surfaced to show the Sussexes pocketed any of this cash themselves. Yet, the numbers tell another story.
An American for-profit company called June's LLC, with no description of purpose, received nearly £30,000 in 2023 and nothing in 2024. And the same filing contains two different company registration numbers, one on the cover page, another on the balance sheet.
But finances weren't the only headache. Behind closed doors, a brand new battle was quietly brewing. Renowned journalist Paula Froelich published explosive reports covering these exact issues, completely blowing the lid off the entire operation. With accusations flying and public outrage mounting, a chilling question began to hang over the entire debacle. Was an even bigger scandal lurking just around the corner?
This is basically a PR play for Harry because he's about to go to Birmingham right now, drum up some business, because right now he only has $4 million in unnamed corporate sponsors for the 2027 games. And he needs a lot more. He needs about at least 25 million more to match the government's 29 million pounds.
But that clash opened the door to a deeper mystery. Was Invictus ever truly Harry's brainchild to begin with?
Don't you give him credit for the Invictus Games. The royal family started it with money William got from a lawsuit that William won. He donated money to start the Invictus Games. That's what people said in the comments. I don't know. Don't get mad at me if I'm wrong about that. And then they turned it over to Harry to give him something to do.
Some critics fiercely reject the idea that Harry built the games single-handedly. They argue the groundwork was laid by the Royal Foundation back when both Prince William and Prince Harry were partners. From their perspective, Invictus was never a solo achievement, but the product of massive royal support and palace backing.
It is such an honor to be here tonight, celebrating all of you and supporting my husband in the Invictus Games.
But who is actually reaping the rewards today? The games became the single platform that gave Harry true purpose, massive visibility, and relevance. Without this event, critics argue his entire public standing within the royal family would have collapsed.
A growing scandal involving Prince Harry and his last remaining genuine charity project, the Invictus Games.
Reports, including details from Time magazine, state that Harry was inspired by the U.S. Warrior Games back in 2013. That specific trip is widely credited as the defining spark that founded the Invictus Games, giving injured veterans a global stage to rebuild their lives and heal. Yet, the official narrative tells a different story.
And be recognized.
The games were born more than a decade ago from a promise that I made to myself. A promise to uphold my obligation, a sacred obligation after my own decade and privilege of military service. To do whatever I could to help my fellow brothers and sisters heal, and to champion everything that we stand for.
But a darker question is emerging now. Is this why Harry clings so desperately to the games? For many observers, the issue is no longer just about who gets the credit. They argue the Sussexes hijacked a project fueled by immense public goodwill and respect, only to drown the cause in constant scandals over money, transparency, and a $63 million budget.
Associated with a project that carried enormous public goodwill and admiration, only for the conversation to become...
Critics wonder why he depends on other nations to fund this, and the backlash didn't stop in Canada. Eyes soon turned to Birmingham, where reports tied the upcoming games to a city already drowning in its own massive debt crisis. Local residents, dealing with severe budget cuts, began demanding to know why their public funds were being spent here. Now, the controversial couple is set to arrive in town. While critics sound the alarm over their lavish demands for five-star hotels and private jets, wondering if the ultimate goal of this spending has been totally lost. So, we know he is going to Birmingham this summer to prep for the games next year. And one of the reasons he's going is because she needs money. He needs sponsors. There's only 11 sponsors lined up so far. and they are all unnamed. Now, if you look at Vancouver, there were 44 sponsors, including Boeing. Then, another massive scandal erupted across the ocean. Reports suggest San Diego will host the 2029 Invictus Games, immediately sparking fresh questions about costs, funding, and whether taxpayers will have to foot the bill. Or is it just another luxury stop on their map? 3, 2, 1, go. Feet up, feet up, feet up. Many is wondering whether history could repeat itself. News broke that Australia backed out of a proposed $9 million funding pledge for the event. This sudden exit fueled intense speculation, leaving critics to ask a deeply troubling question. Was this just a single bump in the road? Or are world governments starting to reconsider their future financial support? Yeah, Australia has done a U-turn. They had previously cut funding for the Invictus Games, but now veteran backlash has forced them to bring it back. But I want to break this down because I'm not buying it, okay? Australian government has reversed its decision to cut funding for Prince Harry's Invictus Australia charity, with Veterans Affairs Minister Matt Keogh announcing that federal support will continue for another 3 years. As part of establishing the new veterans and families' well-being, we're transitioning for funding for broader well-being support. Sounds wise. To the veteran community, to that new agency, as we transition in order to maintain continuity and certainty of support services for our veteran community, we're providing another 3 years of funding to Invictus. The drama deepened when reports revealed that organizers were warned only moments before the Australian funding cut went public. That tight timeline raised serious eyebrows, sparking a brand new wave of doubts. For critics, the massive contradiction was impossible to ignore. Why was one country pulling back millions while other nations were still being pressured to hand over their own public funds? So, and then they have these quotes from Harry Time magazine. Invictus gives them their identity back. What? And then he says it saves lives. Well, she's big on saying that. I mean, look at all the lives Meghan saved by buying jeans. Oh God. These clashing decisions piled pressure onto an already fierce debate about transparency, government priorities, and the actual future of the games. With the hard questions stacking up, the Sussexes faced yet another wave of intense public scrutiny. Yet despite the swirling controversy, Prince Harry kept receiving major public honors. You know, my jaw dropped this week when Time magazine announced that Prince Harry was one of its Time 100 most influential leaders in sport, which I thought was hilarious. This sparked instant debate when he landed on the Time 100 list in sports, right next to icons like LeBron James and Patrick Mahomes. The internet erupted with instant, fierce backlash. Onlookers were stunned, openly questioning how the selection committee worked and why Harry was ranked alongside the world's absolute elite athletes. Skeptics quickly pointed to financial links between the magazine's owners and BetterUp, the firm where Harry works as Chief Impact Officer. The full story of Meghan trying to outshine her husband is already available right here on this channel. Make sure to check it out. You'll see it on your screen at the end of this video. What really bothered me was this is all a PR play. Still, moments like these only reinforced a much deeper narrative. Critics argued that Harry's massive platform is built on elite connections and institutional power, not his own personal achievements. Fair or not, that exact perception grew stronger with every new high-profile gig that came his way. They are so aware of how the cameras are on them at virtually every moment. They can only play the game for so long, especially Harry. But we also saw those moments when Meghan was literally yelling at him when there was the possibility of the cameras being on. So you can only imagine what it's like when they are in private. Then came another viral moment that sent social media into an absolute tailspin. Prince Harry attended an NBA Finals game, reportedly as a personal guest of the league commissioner. Instead of cheering his appearance, however, the internet immediately fixated on something else entirely. Tom Bauer pointed out in his book during an absurd wheelchair basketball game, one team didn't even need wheelchairs, while the other team did. It was America versus Nigeria. Nigeria needed the wheelchairs, and after the game, the Americans all stood up, got out of their wheelchairs, and walked off. It's absurd, but also there was no one in attendance. Sharp-eyed viewers noticed he was not sitting courtside. Broadcast cameras caught him several rows back, and within minutes, social media had turned it into a massive joke. Brutal memes flooded the internet as viewers compared the broadcast to Where is Waldo, mockingly trying to spot him in the crowd. One brutal comment went viral: 8th row for the guy who is 8th in line to the British throne. They seem ashamed of him, viewing him as dangerous and toxic. Funny or cruel? That single joke summed up the internet's mood, quickly racking up millions of views worldwide. For many watching, the issue was no longer just about budgets, spending audits, or financial balance sheets. It had transformed into something far larger and deeply personal. One constant criticism surrounding the couple is that Meghan Markle consistently manages to drag the spotlight away from the actual Invictus Games. I've witnessed the most amazing support networks that surround competitors, and I've had the privilege. Observers argue that whenever Meghan shows up at or near these events, media coverage instantly shifts from the veterans and the true purpose of the competition to her outfits, her personal behavior, and her public interactions instead. When Harry was sort of making a joke on stage about Meghan singing, and just look at her over-the-top responses. Now, she's going to sing. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And then are going to sing? No, I'm not singing. I mean, it's so disingenuous. Michael Bublé says to her, "Are you going to sing?" No, I'm not singing. I mean, oh, it's really difficult to watch. Critics say this dynamic is glaringly obvious during major events, where online commentary explodes within minutes of her arrival. The buzz is never about the athletes or results, but rather Meghan's body language and her interactions with others. She was absolutely loving all of the attention, but the problem is no one wanted her there. No one wanted her there. Reports were coming out even before the games that they did not want her there, because usually the attention is taken away from, the veteran. Invictus, built entirely to honor injured veterans, regularly fights for survival against royal drama that completely eclipses its original mission. And each new public appearance only seems to raise the exact same question. Is Invictus defined by its incredible mission, or by the personalities attached to it, who some claim have made the games an international joke? It is clear that many people simply did not want her there. Another major point of contention is the massive focus on her wardrobe during these high-profile events. Commentators repeatedly point out that the moment she steps out in public, conversations instantly veer away from the actual athletes and land squarely on whatever high-end fashion she is wearing. Every single outfit is dissected instantly. From expensive gowns to casual wear, users analyze designers, price tags, and styling, turning a vital veteran sports tournament into a massive online fashion show. Meghan seems to step out just to steal the spotlight. There was a lot of tension, from what I heard, behind the scenes, that it would have been best had Harry just kept her at home. And, Meghan's going to do what she's going to do. She used it for her moment, for her new social media comeback, and that's what it is about for her, and people can see through that. Some commentators take it even further, claiming her public image is built on high fashion, turning every appearance into a massive commercial billboard for the designers she wears. Has Invictus become a prime opportunity to turn a profit? Critics argue they make far less money than they claim. They call it clever propaganda, from a relentless, ruthless Sussex public relations machine that simply never sleeps. Specific Invictus outfits quickly pop up on retail websites, proudly highlighting that Meghan wore them at the games. Isn't that ironic? Or is she just dressing appropriately for public duty, while the media and internet platforms hyper-focus on her style instead of the actual cause? Still, this fierce debate resurfaces every single time she steps out at a high-profile event. So, also, it doesn't pay for the veterans' transportation or insure them. I mean, what is this paying for? Thing is insane. It is. Sure, lots of private jets, lots of camera crews, lots of security, a documentary, beautiful fashion, of course, from Meghan, 5-star hotels they stay in. Somebody is doing it at IF. There's an audit being done on the $62 million right now. I think this is going to turn out very, very badly. Critics insist that the pattern is highly predictable. The moment Meghan arrives, headlines shift, cameras focus on her clothes, and the actual event gets pushed to the background. Whether that points to a media issue or a public obsession depends entirely on who is asked. But one thing is clear, her fashion, or the dialogue around the Sussexes and Invictus, and the monetization around them are now an inescapable part of the dialogue around the Sussexes and Invictus. Meghan Markle has been forced to leave the Invictus Games, axed by Prince Harry after another PR disaster. In any case, a persistent question hanging over the Invictus Games is whether Prince Harry remains essential to its identity. With growing whispers about missing funds, commercial interests, and endless drama, the answer might seem obvious at first glance. But let's take a closer look. In the early days, most agreed that Harry served as the ultimate driving force behind the entire event. His global profile, royal status, and deep bond with wounded veterans brought massive attention to the project, something very few others could have done. Regarding Prince Harry's Invictus Games, close royal watchers keep a very tight focus, and the latest reports suggest he is facing a mountain of issues. A recent exclusive report broke the news, detailing serious funding issues behind the scenes. But those alarming financial claims had not yet been made fully public. Now that the games have exploded into a massive global event, critics argue Invictus has outgrown its royal founder. They point directly to the massive scale of the organization, noting that with governments, corporate sponsors, and international committees involved, the games operate as a global brand that no longer depends on any single person. Some predict this will mark the beginning of the end for Meghan's public image, suggesting she has abandoned her partner. To many, it looks terrible, drawing heavy public criticism toward her. From this perspective, Harry's presence is seen as symbolic rather than operational, great for branding and visibility, but not essential for the day-to-day survival of the games. But is that level of commercial branding even necessary in the first place? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And the performance, Peter? Now on the moments when they know they're in the spotlight, the performance is so over the top. Supporters strongly reject that view. They insist that Harry remains the emotional heartbeat of Invictus, a leader who connects deeply with veterans and gives the games their true identity. Without him, they believe the event would lose its spirit and purpose. Still, critics keep asking the exact same uncomfortable question. At what point does a founder become obsolete to the very project they created? Is Invictus reaching that threshold, or is it not there yet? Some argue that few veterans are truly devastated. The reality is, looking deeper into the organization, many veterans are more concerned about where the money is actually going. Another debate that constantly shadows the Invictus Games is whether the event remains focused on the veterans, or if it has turned into a massive public relations platform. In recent years, the spotlight around Invictus has steadily shifted to celebrity appearances, constant press coverage of the Sussexes, and viral moments far beyond the sports. Critics point out how news headlines routinely focus on Prince Harry, Meghan, and other famous guests, often overshadowing the athletes competing on the field. Seen this way, Invictus has evolved into a media spectacle where branding and visibility take center stage alongside the athletic competition. $63 million of Invictus spending splashed across the mainstream media. Even loyal supporters admit that Invictus operates in a heavily media-driven environment, where every public appearance, photo, and brief interaction quickly feeds into a much larger narrative. This reality brings us to the core question at the heart of this debate. Is Invictus still defined by its mission, or increasingly shaped by its massive visibility? With the next Invictus Games approaching, the whole conversation is starting all over again. Every time a new edition draws near, the same questions return about the funding, public visibility, audience perception, and what this event has truly become under the global spotlight. The Invictus Games for Wounded Soldiers sounds almost identical to the Wounded Warrior Games. Many assume it must be a wonderful cause, but very few actually know how to read a tax return or analyze the actual statistics. Consequently, it became incredibly easy for observers to praise the Invictus Games as a wonderful and highly effective initiative. Yet, when anyone actually examines the details, they quickly begin to wonder what is really going on behind the scenes. In reality, those 535 competitors had to fund their own travel and pay for their own housing during the games. They even had to purchase their own gear. Meanwhile, online debates have brought back older controversies, including a petition demanding leadership changes for the games. That particular petition has been active for a while, generating intense reactions from supporters and critics alike. Some observers have questioned whether it has made any actual impact, while others insist it simply highlights a deep-seated frustration that continues to linger. For those interested in exploring that specific story further, a full breakdown is available right here on this channel. Viewers can find that link at the end of this video. However, as the next games approach, an entirely different debate is taking center stage. Harry and Meghan reportedly showed up for 10 minutes just for a highly publicized kiss and photo opportunity. While it was staged to look deeply meaningful, critics argue it lacks substance, suggesting that overall public interest is starting to fade. Furthermore, during these difficult economic times, the public genuinely wants transparency regarding where donations are actually being spent. Many point out that numerous other organizations offer direct support to veterans, whether providing necessary prosthetics or building wheelchair ramps at their homes, doing things that actually improve lives, rather than just serving to feed Prince Harry's personal ego. Should Meghan Markle even attend the event? Her supporters argue that her presence is entirely natural, given her role beside Prince Harry and her history of championing veterans through the organization. To them, her participation is just a normal aspect of the game's modern public relations strategy. But detractors argue that every public appearance shifts the media's focus. They wonder if her involvement distracts from the veterans or simply brings a wave of intense media scrutiny that follows the royal couple everywhere. And once again, the entire controversy centers on the same core tension: the true mission of Invictus versus the media circus surrounding it. Ultimately, each new appearance does not just raise expectations for the event itself, it inevitably sparks the exact same controversies all over again. Before moving on, this channel wants to hear your perspective on this situation. Please share those thoughts in the comments section below. Is Invictus still holding true to its founding charitable mission, or has the entire conversation shifted too much over the years? Anyone with ideas for future videos or specific topics that need analysis should feel free to suggest them in the comment section too. Be sure to subscribe to Crown Clash, as this channel uploads fresh videos daily covering all the latest Sussex drama. Do not forget to explore the other videos currently visible on the screen right now. One analyzes the claims of Meghan potentially outshining Prince Harry, while another examines the growing petition and the debate surrounding Invictus. Both segments are already live on this channel, so viewers should make sure to watch them. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.